Well, hello everybody. I am Erik Wexler, the President of Operations and Strategy for the Southern Footprint of Providence St. Joseph, and it is so great to be with all of you today. And I am honored to be the host of this session, and I want to thank those who thought of me to do this because I think we're going to have a very interesting discussion today. But before we get going in this up close and personal discussion, today we'll be discussing the Somos Providence Latinx CRG Mentorship Program, which I'm participating in. I am going to be a mentor. And I'm your host, as I mentioned. But as a reminder, the information that we're providing during this event is for educational purposes only. If you have any questions regarding medical conditions or treatment plans, please make sure to consult your physician. That's the fine print. Now let's get started. So I have these three esteemed guests with me today. Some of you may know them. Danny Fajardo. Danny is the Regional Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations. Laura Salas Reyes is the Patient Experience Senior Program Manager for our Providence Medical Foundation in Southern California. And Louis Bejar. And Louis is the Patient Access Director and Patient and Market Experience Leader for the LA market. So we're going to launch right into it, okay, with some questions for the three of you. And, I think I'll start with you, Laura, because this is a really important time. When we think about up close and personal, our webcast, for the viewers and listeners that missed our first webcast, which celebrated National Hispanic Heritage Month, you could all share your background a little bit so that people get to know you. So, Laura, why don't you say a few words about yourself, and then we'll move on to Danny and to Louis.
Well, I have been in healthcare for over 16 years. I began as a patient experience leader in the hospital setting, listening to patients' needs and their families' needs and knowing what things to do to make their experience better. I then transitioned into facilitation and organizational development at Molina Healthcare. And in there, after my time there, I came to Providence, and I've been here for 3 years. And I'm part of the culture formation team, in which we have conversations about our mission, our values, how we align with them, how we talk to our patients and each other with compassion, with respect and kindness. And I love the work that I do here at Providence. It's truly the best, I would say, the best job I've had so far in my entire career.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for that. Danny?
Hi, so I'm Danny Fajardo, the Regional Director of the Corporate and Foundation Relations team here, which really just means we work on grants for our region. And so I've been here with Providence now for going on 4.5 years, and I moved back here from New York about that time, 4.5 years ago. And I've been in healthcare now for about 14 years and just really love the job, love the organization that we're with in our mission. And, one of the really rewarding things about being part of Somos Providence and Providence in general is just, like I said, our mission, being able to give back. And from a grants perspective, we do that. We really look at all of our programs and where the greatest need is. And so being part of in this role allows me to sort of find funding for different opportunities that we have at Providence. So
it's fantastic. Louis, welcome.
Thank you, Erik. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Like Laura and Danny, excited to be here. So my background is revenue cycle, patient access. So I am going on 25 years now. It's just hard to believe, the journey this is taking us, going on 25 years being in this arena. So all revenue cycle, all patient access, like most of our caregivers on our team, I started off as a volunteer, as an intern, as a registrar down in the emergency room. I like to say that I've been, lucky enough to like what we're talking about here, have lots of mentors that have been there with me and for me at the right place at the right time, and just allowed me to be part of this journey. And just helping patients, easing the patient's way. Really what we do in patient access is be that first point of contact for our patients across all of the ministries, across the enterprise, and making sure that we ease their way. It's very, very rewarding to be in these roles. Like most of our caregivers might agree, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm so proud of the three of you. You've accomplished great roles in our organization, and you've had great experience outside of our organization. You are a great representation of what we want to have as the best and brightest in our organization leading us forward. And so, what I really want to do is start with a little bit of background here. And Laura, I think I'll swing back to you if I can. Tell us, tell the viewers about our caregiver resource group, Somos Providence, and share a little bit about how the group came to select this name, Somos Providence.
Well, when I started with the CRG, I think we were in a meeting. It was another Latinx CRG meeting that I was invited to, and they were talking about names. And I think one of them said that they were called Manos Unidas, which is United Hands, or it might be United Souls, one or the other. And I thought we should name our CRG. So we actually had people submit names and we put it to a vote, and they selected Somos Providence, which means we are Providence in Spanish. And I think that it's a wonderful name. I think it really represents us well. And that's how we chose it.
It's a beautiful name. And we are all together in support of Somos Providence. And I love that you selected that. It's a brilliant decision to call it by that name. And, it kind of brings me, when we think about name and nomenclature, Laura, you, Danny, and I were having a conversation not too long ago. And, so Louis, I'm gonna turn this one to you, because it was a conversation the three of us were having, but you weren't there. And it was about the terminology Latinx. And I was having, a very kind of open conversation with Danny about preference to Latinx versus Latino or Latina. And, I read recently that very few people actually identify with Latinx. So, I'm kind of curious, take a moment to tell us about how the Latin community feels about the term Latinx, and should we be using that or not?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a good question. And I think part of our steering committee and part of our resource group, we picked up this conversation, and we've talked about it, on a few occasions. And it seems like it's a fairly new term, and it's a fairly new name, right? Where, just, in general, most people use the term Latino, like you said, or Latina, which references, right, mostly anyone coming from a Latin American country or culture. Whereas then you get into Hispanic, and that specifically, talks about, just Spanish speaking language, both Latin America, Spain, and that sort of stuff. So where Latinx, really came into the picture, a few years back, as far as we've done, a little bit of research on it and whatnot. So it's fairly new, and it's really pointed more to be a gender neutral alternative, right? So just something that's gender neutral to Latino, Latina. And one of the things that I personally feel about this term is just that while it's fairly new, it gives us the opportunity to make sure that we are, more inclusive, right? Make sure that we're kind of including, anyone and across countries, across backgrounds, across cultures, that feels like they identify in one way or another with Latin. And it's something new. Personally, I like it just because it's more inclusive, but I think it's going to take some time to get used to. And it's, the more we talk about it and the more we have these conversations, it definitely drives that, right? Getting people used to it. But I like the fact that it's just more inclusive, and it just, welcomes anyone that wants to be part of a resource group, or that wants to, share their background, share their stories. And that's how I feel about it. It's just a lot more inclusive, but it's going to take some time to get used to, for sure.
And in some of my reading, Louis, the LGBTQ community also identifies with that Latinx terminology, which I think is a real important part of the use of that terminology. Any comments you want to add to that, or Laura or Danny, on the whole use of Latinx while the four of us are together?
Yeah, I would just compliment what Luis said. And as a gay identifying male myself, I really like the term Latinx because it is inclusive of different groups. Like Luis said, it's something that's very new. And so a lot of people are getting used to it. And I think there's also a generational gap with it as well. And so I think when you look at the in Latin or Spanish culture speaking, everything really is in masculine or feminine, and that's just sort of how the language and the culture is. And so the Latinx is something that's new, but it's inclusive, and I think it's definitely the right direction. And so for the purpose of our group, Somos Providence, like Laura said, is we are Providence. The Latinx, we still kept part of it because it identifies it and includes everybody in that community. And it can also be outside of the Latin community too, is what I understand too. So, so I think there's a lot of inclusion in the word Latinx.
Go ahead, Laura, please.
I just wonder what our viewers think about the term. I encourage them to put their comments in the chat, but I have to say that when I first heard it, which was really about 6 or 7 months ago, when Barbara Ferrer was giving COVID updates on the news, and she said the Latinx community, something about the vaccination rates. And I thought, what is that? What does Latinx stand for? So for me, as a mature woman, I had not heard the term at all, I think, prior to that. So I looked it up and found that it is the term for us, the gender neutral term, but I'm not sure if I like it. I think I can get used to it. And I think it's whatever your preference is, because our language is not gender neutral at all. And I think it resonates more with younger people, but it's just a name. So I think it's a label, and it works for I guess it works for people in a different way. But I had not heard of it. I found it interested. I'm not sure if the X at the end is something that I like, but we'll embrace it.
Yeah, and I think that's it's such an interesting conversation because all of us have different perspectives on things, and we just heard 3 different perspectives. The key here is that we come together in humanity and that we show compassion and love for one another. And how we do that with compassion and love is very important. And so in this particular case, inclusivity is key. Acceptance is really important, but fidelity with one another is probably the most important thing. And Somos Providence is showing that to all of us and helping to lead the way. And so I would like to just ask you, Danny, you had an event, the Caregiver Resource Group, at the LA mission last year, and I know many of us enjoyed seeing the pictures. Can we expect to see any more community events this year? Here are some of the pictures that were on screen.
Yeah, so we had a really great event last year at LA Mission. For those that don't know, it's a organization in downtown LA serving Skid Row. And so we had some volunteers from our Somos Providence CRG and steering committee members come together on a Saturday to put together food boxes to distribute to the homeless. And a closed distribution, which was it was a really great opportunity just for our group to get together. It was the first time actually I had been together with a group since COVID started. And so that was a really great experience, just being able to connect. And then of course, connecting with our mission here at Providence to serve the poor and the vulnerable. And that's really what LA Mission does. And so, really great experience. And in terms of future opportunities, we want to carry follow in the mission and work with organizations that also do similar work. So one of our next events coming up is really focused, again, with LA Mission. We're looking to do volunteering there for Easter and passing out Easter baskets to 500 kids that live in or around Skid Row. And then we're also looking at having other events as we talk about Cinco de Mayo and some of the, bigger Hispanic or Latin dates and events that we celebrate. So we're really we're putting out a calendar as well in our newsletter that has different Latin cultures and things that are important to that culture, and trying to really celebrate the traditions and their culture. So yes, we're going to be doing more of those events. We're also going to be partnering a lot more with local organizations that serve Latin clients, for example. And so we're going to have next month at our quarterly CRG meeting, we're going to have more guest speakers. We'll have a guest speaker next month, for example, that will talk a little bit about his work in the community, working with marginalized populations, and how we can get involved as a CRG to volunteer with them. So lots of events coming in the near future. So we're really looking forward to more CRG members participating.
I don't know how you fit this into your time. And I think all of us who are listening in need to be extremely grateful to the three of you and others who are in the CRG, and as well for our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council, which I'm super passionate about, because you're working this into the already high demands of your calling, your roles in our organization, and then on top of that, your family life and trying to get some balance in your life. So this is a very special contribution that the three of you are making to better our society, and I applaud you for that. Laura, how can people join Somos Providence and become involved with these efforts?
They can reach out to any of us. We also have an email that will be put in the chat to reach us, and we welcome people to join us in our efforts and in our work. And I guarantee you, you will enjoy it. We are an animated, spirited group, and we have goals and plans to accomplish. So we welcome your input and your coming on board.
Laura, don't go away yet, because I want to ask you another question, a follow-on question. But first, I just can't help myself but to read the Caregiver Resource Group's mission statement to all of our listeners. It says, "We promote a culture of diversity and inclusion with a focus on building community and supporting development of Latinx caregivers to retain, promote, and recruit. We celebrate diversity of cultures within the Latinx community and encourage continued growth." Laura, when you think about that mission statement, it sounds like Somos Providence is providing opportunities for networking and mentorship. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We have just kicked off our first cohort for mentorship. We're starting with a small group, but we're so excited that we've got it kicked off. And so it will be a 6-month mentorship. And at the conclusion of that, we will have a celebration with them, ask if it worked out, find out what worked, what didn't work, to get ready for the next one. So I think that for us, that was one thing that we were really focused on getting off the ground, even if it's just with a small group initially. But mentorship is so important. I remember my mentor, when I graduated from college, I was mentored by Jim Estrada. He led a communications agency, and he taught me so much about preparing for the corporate world. And he taught me how to communicate well, how to get my ideas across. And so I think that mentoring is very important. So I am just so proud that we were able to get it launched.
Well, you had a great mentor, because boy, you know how to do all that very well. But a lot of this is also due to your own expertise and capabilities and your desire to advance yourself and within the organization. And so kudos to you. Louis, we've all probably had mentors. Can you tell us about one of your mentors?
Yeah, definitely. I think, we meet so many people right across our journeys, and we meet so many people that touch us in different ways. And I want to say I've had, several mentors, that have helped me along the way. One, that I, really touched me the most. His name is Greg Slevkov, and he was really passionate. He was really passionate. And this is, we're talking about, I met him, back, at least 12 years ago, and he was just really passionate about serving. And, he would, his vacations were going to Mexico and volunteering at orphanages and just giving back to that community. Every year he went back to Mexico and visited a different orphanage and gave back to that community. Really invested, but he was also, really invested in the work that we do here at the hospitals and patient access and making sure that we, helped caregivers develop and help, provide resources. So some of the work that we're talking about in this resource group now, he sort of was doing back then. But, but we also have so many different, mentors across the way. I'd like to say that we learn from so many different people. Another director, her name was Gayatri, Vicky Head, who's part of the, DEI council, right? She's definitely a mentor for so many of us, and even our caregivers. I think that our caregivers themselves, we learn from them as well, and they help guide us, as well. So we, as much as they can learn from us, we learn from them as well. So this has been an incredible journey for me, and I can go on about so many different mentors. I'm just glad that we're able to give back and be there for other caregivers, other leaders up and coming, and anyone else that can, tap into what we potentially can do for them as mentors. So definitely, this is definitely exciting and a big part of why, I was interested in becoming part of this resource group and the steering committee as well.
One of the most important mentors in my life was a man by the name of Walter Amray. Unfortunately, he passed away, and may he rest in peace. Walter was one of the first persons of color who was a superintendent of schools in Maryland, and he was an extraordinary man. He happened to be the chairman of the hospital I was the CEO of, and he imparted so much knowledge to me about how to think strategically, how to think about myself and how I present myself. And, I find that these opportunities with mentors are some of the most important gifts, we can get in this world from people that really care about us. Danny, what about you? You have a mentor that you can think of?
I have a really great mentor, actually. For those that don't know yet, I had we've been working closely with Erik Wexler, and so most recently reached out to him to start a mentoring relationship, and we've had our first meeting last month. And so just really honored that you would you're here supporting us in this work now, and even supporting one of us to mentor us, and it just speaks to sort of where Providence is in terms of DEI, in terms of our mission and our efforts and our leadership. And so I want to thank you, Erik, for sort of stepping up and really, serving as a mentor. So I'm really looking forward to what that looks like, and just all the things that I can learn from you. So thank you.
Well, I didn't mean for you to name me. I thought maybe there'd be something for me. But now that I'm blushing a little bit about this, I will say, you said thank you for supporting us. We support each other, and look at all the support that you have given to me, and in helping me to, drive forward along with you all our diversity, equity, and inclusion work, informing Somos Providence. This is, where we come together for the good of all. And I'm really honored to have the opportunity, Danny, to do this with you. This is where we as mentees give back as mentors. So, for Laura and Lewis and you, Danny, and for me, while we get this gift, we have to give it back. We have to pay it forward. So, everybody knows this is Women's History Month, and there's so much to celebrate about the women around us. And frankly, one of my other important mentors is a woman by the name of Lucille Janecka. She was the chief operating officer of a hospital I worked in once before, and then became the CEO and allowed me to go work with her. So, I can't help but turn to you, Laura, if you don't mind. Is there a woman in your life that inspires you to continue to make a difference in this world around us?
I am surrounded by inspiring women. I can't just name one. And right now I want to focus on my sisters, Norma, Jasmine, and Estella. All of them educators, leaders, managers. I mean, they just amaze me. My youngest sister, Jasmine, just got named Teacher of the Year. And I want to get this right, for Charles Jones Middle School in Baldwin Park. My sister, Estella, is a principal for preschoolers to sixth grade. And she runs one of only 3 public schools in Southern California for the deaf and hard of hearing. And so with the movie Coda, that is a big focus right now. And I'm so proud of her work as well. Norma, my sister, she's also, she manages a successful dental practice, and she also has a good career in real estate. And who mentored us? Our mom. My mother taught us what we know. She always said, go for your dreams. Don't be scared. Go for what you want. And so my whole family, we're all in great careers. And my brother, who, he's not a woman, but he also inspires me. He's in a wonderful role as well as executive director of the Los Angeles County Development Authority. My mother did well, and she taught us how to just go for it. So it's my sisters, these women, and not only my sisters. If I think about the people I work with, the majority are women. My leaders, the mission leaders that I work with, women, all of them, they get things done. So I wish I had more time to tell you more, but I wanted to give a shout out to my Salas siblings who are probably listening right now. Love you guys.
Beautiful. That's very inspiring. And isn't it great when you have your own family members that surround you, showing the kind of support that we all need to, keep saying sometimes, but to advance in our lives. And what a blessing that your mother did so well and helped you learn along the way. So thank you for sharing that with us. Well, one more question. I'm going to send this over to you, Louis. What can we expect to see in terms of future education and events hosted by Somos Providence? And I know many of us are looking forward to learning more about the rich culture of family, food, and music. So say a little bit about that, and then I think we'll close up in our last couple minutes.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have lots of stuff in the planning, and Monique, who's part of our steering committee, she's in charge of our newsletter. She just put out a newsletter, so maybe we could drop it in the chat or share it with the teams. There's lots of information on there. It talks about the opportunities that are upcoming. Also, just like Danny said earlier, we're really trying to get more volunteering events together, starting with Easter and then forward into the next months ahead. Volunteering opportunities. I saw a question that said, can caregivers bring family members to volunteering events? And I think definitely, we have that opportunity. So if they reach out to the group and reach out to the steering committee or members of the group, we can definitely help facilitate that. The more the merrier. The more people we can have at the volunteering events always helps. And one of the things, speaking of food, is in the newsletter we are publishing recipes from our caregivers, from our resource group members, have the opportunity to share a recipe and talk a little bit about it, how they came to it, the history of the recipe, whether it's from grandma, great grandma, or it's something that we grew up with, and being able to share that across. So lots of opportunities coming up. The newsletter is a great resource. We can definitely share that here if possible in the links and put it out there for everyone watching. So make sure that we can get some of those events out there for you guys. So and of course the mentorship. We have some great mentors already. Michelle Glover, who's the executive director of Home Health. Leonora Aranda, who's manager in sales support. So different mentors out there, lots of different opportunities. And if anyone wants to be a mentor, reach out to us. We definitely can use your help. Thank you.
Fantastic. Wow, what a great discussion we had today. And the half hour went by like at lightning speed. And I just want to send out a huge thanks to you, Danny, and Laura, and Louis for joining us today, and for everyone for listening in and sending in your questions. Don't forget, if you're looking for medical advice, please visit providence.org. Make sure to follow Providence on social media at Providence on Twitter, and under the Providence Health System on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thanks, everybody.
Erik, we have a few minutes. We have a few minutes. I just saw it in the chat. So before you let us go,
All right.
I want to say that on April 22nd, we have our quarterly meeting. And Kevin Manaman, who's one of our leaders, who's also been very supportive of our DEI efforts, he will be introducing our guest speaker, who Danny Fajardo is bringing in, and a dynamic speaker from what I hear. And so I just want to encourage people that if you're interested in joining our CRG, we have our quarterly meeting coming up, and it's going to be fantastic.
All right. Well, that's a perfect note to end on. Thanks to the three of you, and special thanks for asking me to do this. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing, for making our world a much better place to live in. I'm super proud of you. Have a good day to all three of you and the rest of our audience. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.